Just a quick heads up guys, before we get into this video, just want to let you know that the first 10 minutes of this is just basically me giving a rundown of all the previous games that have given us the foundation up to what we have now in the 2D platform era. If you want to skip all that, just go ahead and click the timestamp down in the description. That's all you got to do. And I just want to let you guys know that I do have a Discord now. The link is in the description below, where we all connect together and interact and talk about games and movies and all that fun stuff. And it is where you'll see updates on when I do giveaways, crowd control events, and all the like stuff. So click on that link if you want to join in. I'll see you there. Also, Ken is the best Street Fighter character! 2D games, jump and shoot games, you put them together with the right person or people behind the making of it, and you get unlimited greatness and timeless memories. This is a genre that is ongoing from old games to new games alike, with creative mechanics along the way. Dating back to the early 1980s, the concept of a jump and shoot game was first introduced in the 1981 arcade game Jump Bug. It's one of the most super simple games to grasp the concept of an auto-scrolling as well as auto-jumping and shooting game. You literally play as a Volkswagen Beetle whose name happens to be Bug. The game is designed for the player to rhythmically guide Bug through each level as it auto-scrolls and auto-bounces. You can control the height and the descent after each jump simply by moving up and down. Avoid enemies that try to destroy you by moving back and forth, or pressing the shoot button to clear out enemies that lie in your path. Some may say that this game alone was a pioneer for future 2D games where it requires the player to be more reactive. In the same year, a month after the release of Jump Bug, came one of the most popular games still played and talked about to this day, known as Donkey Kong. Although there was no shooting and no side-scrolling, this was the game that changed the design of how they wanted their games to be played by giving the players control of two things: jumping and movement. And your only way of ascension from level to level was climbing ladders, which of course that mechanic was introduced back in 1980 from the game Space Panic, but didn't have the jump mechanic. However, in Donkey Kong, you could not control your jump mid-air, so this required precise timing and attempts to clear jumping over barrels and live sentient fire with menacing eyes. Jesus. Otherwise, you lose, and that old donkey runs off with your Pauline. That lady's name is Pauline. Yeah, sorry. Nonetheless, the game was and still is fun to this day. But upcoming game devs saw this and were like, listen, y'all, listen. We gotta add more to this, okay? We got the blueprint, now let's get creative with it. We need to figure out a way for the players to do more. Okay, so give me some thoughts, give me some ideas, just give me what you got, And they did. Developers like Namco and Konami, they were all over this shit. January 1984, we got Dragon Buster. Developed and published by Namco, Dragon Buster was a game on the arcade that was a 2D side-scroller. I believe this was also the first game that introduced double jumping, even including a way to jump and latch onto ropes and ladders. Core features that can assist in gaining height, covering distances, avoiding potential threats, the works. They thought of it all. What they did differently though was think outside the box. With this game, they wanted you to try and defend yourself from close quarters.
Now let's see if you can defend yourself, you sweat from a baboon's balls.
They give you a sword to fight with mainly, and it thrusts directly in front of you, covering some space, meaning you couldn't just dilly-dally and chug a beer on the side of the screen and shoot long distance to the other side. The devs wanted to put you up close and personal and go to work. Now I will say you can actually shoot fireballs as well, but these you would have to collect after defeating these mini boss thingies. I have no clue what the fuck that is. But 90% of the time you just got your trusty blade to slay the dragon. Something to keep in mind though is that the original arcade version of Dragon Buster didn't allow you to control your trajectory after your jump in mid-air. However, this game had multiple ports, and the one that gave you the ability of doing that with the double jump, giving the player a more sense of control, was the NES Famicom version that was released in January of 1987. Pay attention to that year, okay? 1987 was the year for everything, okay? It was revolutionary, so pay attention. Moving onward, a year after Dragon Buster, in 1985, Konami puts out a run and gun game, Rush-In Attack, or Green Beret as it is originally called in Japan. Konami was going in the right direction. kinda. Still close range combat with more of a variety of weapon pickups such as a flamethrower, pack of grenades, and a bazooka. Keeping the same mechanics, not many changes except in this game players have to be more reactive. As the further and longer you go in each of the 4 stages, more enemies spawn, making it a bit more difficult to clear the level. It's easier said than done, and this game also had multiple ports, in addition to Vatra Games developing and releasing a 2011 sequel. Later that same year of 1985, Nintendo was wanting to try and develop a game that tested a player's rhythm and mobility by adding more physics into it. And honestly, I think during this time it was the best game to play that felt a little more realistic. If you haven't guessed it by now, I'm talking about probably the most popular game that has ever touched an NES system, and that was Super Mario Bros. This fucking game sold. I honestly don't know a single soul that's at or close to my age. I'm 32, by the way, by the time of this video, that has not touched or even smelled this game. Like, I don't even need to go into details about this one. Nah, just play the game again and reminisce the feeling of holding down the B button to increase your fucking speed and jump far as shit and hit the top of the flagpole, grabbing the fire flower to beat Big Bitch Bowser and grasping the simplest of physics. It's undeniably one of the greatest simple games acknowledged. This shit was so good, it had your parents seeing you play a Sega Genesis but calling it a Nintendo. Like, if you want to make your own 2D side-scrolling game, study this game only and get creative after. It's that fucking good. Okay, let me calm down and focus. I got a little too hyped there. For a while, Konami seemed to be the one to put effort in fine-tuning and perfecting the ultimate run and slash shoot game. slash. They could only work with what they had at the time, but took the opportunities of doing more as technology in the gaming industry was evolving over time. Thus, in February 1987 came one of their most memorable run-and-gun games, Contra. This series was legendary on the arcade with some ports and sequels throughout the years. It was widely recognized and notable as it was the first 2D platformer to feature 8-directional shooting. Shooting in more than one direction, though, was showcased in Metroid 1 when it first released in 1986. You only could shoot right, left, and up at the time. Contra, on the other hand, went a full circle, all while still running. It had both side-scrolling and vertical scrolling as you transition to a top-down view in some of the levels, but the concept doesn't change except no jumping in the top-down levels. And with this non-stop enemy spawning blasting action that would heighten the sense of the players to develop the skill to go through the levels in the game, this set a foundation for what future 2D games could potentially be. To me, in all my experience in gaming and playing retro games, although born in 1993, I feel as though the year 1987 was a revolutionary year for devs to experiment with the genre. They were all influencing each other with each installment they were putting out, but there was one that I think had the will more than others to give it a slight spin to their versions of the genre. Yeah, if you guessed it by context of this video and where it's going, it was Capcom. Back then as a kid, around the age of 6, I believe, we had our own NES system. And I remember we had a plethora of games, one of which was Capcom's Bionic Commando, a game where you play as Nathan Lad Spencer, I guess, who was a soldier sent to stop the revival of Adolf Hitler. The name was actually changed to Master D for Western reasons. Anyway, the coolest thing about Spencer is known for being equipped with a fucking grappling arm, and that was a selling point for me. When I got my hands on the 1988 NES release of Bionic Commando, it intrigued me. It was not your normal jump from platform to platform to ascend. No. You utilized the fuck out of that grappling arm, and you could cling to platforms to either climb up on or even swing to other platforms. The one thing you couldn't do directly is kill enemies with the arm, but it allowed you to still deflect incoming shots, stun enemies, or even acquiring pickups from afar. This game was a masterpiece in terms of giving you a variety of options to traverse through the game, in addition to having an occasional top-down segment when you encounter enemies on the map, which serves and can be viewed as salvation, because in these top-down segments you have the opportunity to kill enemies that drop these eagle tokens that you can collect as extra lives to continue playing the game. Grappling arm. And something I'm gonna let you guys in on that I'm sure most of you are similar in the aspects, but when I play a game, 99% of the time I don't look up controls or booklets to learn how to play a game. If I want to learn how to play a game, I do it by simply playing the game. For me, it's the best way to learn most games. Why? Because most of the games in specific genres I grew up with already and I already have an understanding of. And at that age of 6, I didn't have the best reading or comprehension skills, but I could grasp the mechanics of a simple 2D platformer with ease. I mean, it was tough, of course, with Bionic Commando though. Like, I ain't gonna lie, I couldn't make it past the first stage, goddamn. But that doesn't mean I didn't learn, and it happens with majority of us. We play something and fail multiple times over and over until we get good enough to progress on. It's just how it works, especially since there are some games that teach you how to play simply by the default design and tools you are given right at the beginning. You essentially just teach yourself though, and I honestly think it's an efficient way to do it. I can appreciate this method of self-teaching. It allows the players to be creative on how they want to play, while respecting the rules of the controlled environment designed by the developer. Although in many cases, oftentimes those rules get broken to exploit tech in order to beat the games more quickly, hence why we have speedrunning. All of these elements, mechanics, tools, concepts, etc., they have all been tested and redefined many times over. But there was one series in particular that I felt was slowly putting all of these ingredients together slowly over time. And that series was Mega Man. December 17th, 1987, Japan. The Blue Bomber was officially created and released out into the world. All my Mega Man brethren all know how a traditional Mega Man game works, but for those that don't, you pick whatever stage first and start off neutral, like no weapons at all. You go through the levels, and at the end of each level, there's a boss you must defeat. Once you defeat the boss, you acquire the weapon power-up to use at your disposal. Each boss has a weakness to the weapons you acquire, and the fun part about that is that they'll tell you what works on who. You get to experiment and figure it out yourself. You know what works if a significant amount of health is depleted. At that point, you just gotta remember it. Once you go through the stages and defeat all the bosses, you then go through what I call post stages. There's usually 3 to 4 stages. The last post stage is always a boss rush room. The number of teleporters will be the same number as the bosses you fought previously. Once you beat the same bosses again, that's when you fight the final boss, Albert Einstein. Dr. Wily, we know. It's pretty straightforward. This was the game series that probably had the absolute tightest controls in movement. I mean, when you tap right, the indicator is just Mega Man inching his foot over, but hold it for a split frame longer and you're rocking and rolling. Jumping had a conditioned height to a T. You tap the jump button, you do a short hop, but if you hold it, you jump 8 feet or 9 feet in the air because you're Mega Man. That's how it works. And remember how I kept mentioning the whole thing with having control of your jumps in midair? Yeah, Mega Man solidified that mechanic. Whether you're jumping or falling downwards off a ledge, you can literally switch movement left and right at will, keeping the same momentum or stop on a dime without the unnecessary overfloat like previous games I mentioned. This gave the player better rhythm, so to speak, in terms of actually platforming through the levels from between surfaces, avoiding attacks, placing where you land much easier, jumping onto ladders, jumping off ladders, and more. Jumping and shooting was never made easier. It's fucking radiant. The first 6 classic Mega Man games didn't deviate from this either. In fact, they added to it. Throughout the initial 6, there were usually 1 or 2 mechanics added. Mega Man 2, we get E-tanks and the item assist. Mega Man 3, we get rush assist and the ability to slide, which they kept in future games. In 4, we get a charge shot and so forth down the line. It's nice to see that they tend to keep what they know what works and switch up what doesn't or just modify it a bit. But over the years, the classic series was getting pretty repetitive. At the end of the day, it's still Mega Man. We know how to play it and adjust to the changes as we go. And Capcom knew this, so they decided to turn it the fuck up. And as a result, December 17th, 1993. Bam, motherfuckers, we got Mega Man X. Everyone on board the hype train because this game was also revolutionary, running on the Super Nintendo. Same tight ass controls, same jump and shoot concept, only this time we can dash and scale walls and charge boss weapons. Fuck! A successor to the legendary classics as you play as X and not this cool, badass, handsomely dashing looking REUPLOAD who saves us from Boba, Django, fuck it, we'll just call him Bongo. This is Zero. Let me just say that the aura farming from this guy gets surreal every time he comes on screen. But who cares, right? We're fucking Mega Man X. We get armor pieces, all the color palettes, a freaking Hadouken. We end up doing all the same shit he does anyway. Jump, dash, shoot, and he ends up the one being dead. And when Mega Man X2 came out, we get partnered with one of the bravest heroes in the series, Green Breaker! Unfortunately, he died 2 seconds into the first cutscene, but the fans didn't let him falter as they kept him alive with his own fan game. You should check it out. It's pretty good. Link in the description. But I digress. X is still going at it solo because apparently the canon mission is to rebuild Zero from the parts we brought back from X1. But Big Daddy Kane got ran up on by his ops, the X Hunters, and yoinked our Dream Boy. If you fail to miss even one Zero part, you have to fight him, and he's a tough nut to crack. But if you do get all the parts back, he gets rebuilt and saves you, again, from a phony bitch inferior to the real one, and destroys him with the trademarked special attack. No, seriously, you will see this attack pattern in other games. It's actually pretty cool. And then we beat Sigma again, yada yada, and we save the day with our good old buddy back, yada yada. Now, let's talk about that attack pattern real quick. I'll point out the fact that if you do get all the parts, you won't see how it's done since he's saving you off screen. But if you don't, you do see how it's done. It's 2 charge shots followed by a saber slash. This man has upgraded to having a saber at the end of X2. Like, bitch, you weren't at the Padawans gathering for the Kyber Crystal. Get the fuck out of here. But yeah, this is the pattern you see, but I'm putting emphasis on the saber because it's the one thing that makes him Zero, differentiating his personality between him and X, making him essentially more dangerous long distance and close range. During the development of Mega Man X3, the team brainstormed ideas on how they could make the game more inclusive, and the best way to do that was answering a lot of our hopes, prayers, and dreams by finally making Zero a playable character. Oh yeah, this is cool, I'm a red boy with a green sword, I got lots of long hair, and I'm such a badass, let's fucking go! I died. Shit. Oh, that's alright. We can play as him again, right? We can play as him again, right? No, we can't. Once you lose Zero, he is gone for the rest of the game. Like, why? I would understand if it was for the rest of the stage, but the whole game? Like, imagine your excitement after the 2 previous games, how they hyped this man up. But not to fret, as you still can have a saber of your own as X. How, you ask? Well, friend, don't die as Zero, as well as beat Vile and you beat Mosquitoes as Zero. The properties are the exact same. In a way, you're just playing as one character. X just has boss weapons and armor upgrades, which, I mean, cool, I guess. Beating Sigma's small size P-head was nice since the saber projectile has a bigger size and hits 4 times. But we want to see Zero as his own character. We see he's meant to be different from X. Give us something that distinguishes him. Something that makes him unique, something... What's that noise? Mega Man X4 was by far the best game I ever played in my life. I don't care, you can't tell me nothing. You can play as X, you can play as Zero, separately. X still has a buster to charge, but Zero has his saber back with a full move list. This is what we wanted. This was revolutionary in giving the fans a taste of something literally game-changing, and it gives the player the opportunity to build skill in a different range. He was easily and quickly loved by fans by his swift and versatile playstyle, and he was given one of, if not the most, memorable cutscenes throughout the series. What am I fighting for? 1997 was a great year for Mega Man fans, as it was the first 32-bit Mega Man X game to hit the PlayStation and Sega Saturn. Everything was enhanced from visuals to mechanics to music, the whole 9. The more Mega Man fans I come across and ask which X game they prefer, majority of them said X4 was the one they go back to play mostly. This game will always be timeless in our hearts. And I'm going to be transparent with you guys, especially from a generational standpoint. Remember earlier I said I am 32. Born in 1993. The first Mega Man game I played was the version released on the first Game Boy, and I couldn't visibly begin actually playing a video game until like 98. And growing up, although we had the NES, we also had a Sega Genesis, and over time I was more of a Genesis kid than Nintendo. So I didn't even play Mega Man 2 on the NES until after its lifespan. The Sony PlayStation was the next system that we got the next year. I didn't even know the X series was even a thing. I didn't know it existed until like 2000. One day my dad left to go run errands and came back and he was like, I bought something from you guys for you and your brother to play together. My brother was like, thank you. And I was like, ah! But I was a little confused because it was my first time seeing an X game, let alone a 4th one. So I'm like, Where could the other 3 be? Ah, fuck it, I don't care. I'm slapping that baby and balling out. It was my first time being introduced to Zero, and right from the jump, I thought he looked dashingly badass. But by playing Game Boy Mega Man and NES Mega Man 2, I'm already familiar with the far range play style. So when I played, I had my X save file and my brother had his Zero save file. We'd switch off every now and then to watch each other one play and things like that. We weren't stingy though. We both did X and Zero runs for ourselves because why not? And this was the beginning for me. I was more of the gamer than anybody else in the family. So I played X4 the most. Most of the runs I did as Zero. Only other Mega Man game we had on the PlayStation was Legends 2, which was good in my opinion, but life was lifing and we played other things. Didn't even care to see if there was anything after X4. If I remember correctly though, we had our PS1 up until the release of the PS2, and we traded it for that, I think. I cannot remember. This was 25 years ago. I don't know. Anyway, the PS1 was gone. Mega Man X4 was gone temporarily, and we jammed with the PS2, which was a way for me to play the ported classic games and X games. When those games came in collections though. 2001 hits and my dad comes through once again, getting me and my brother our own Game Boy Advance. But we didn't have that many games on it initially. And blah, 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 a year goes. I'm being a kid on my GBA, and one day I'm hanging out with my mom and stuff, and we go to GameStop. She says, "Hey, you've been such a good boy. I love you. Go ahead and pick out a game." So I'm walking through GameStop like the brainless dunce that I was, came across the GBA section. Lo and behold, I see a Mega Man. Zero? And this piqued my interest because I clearly see Zero, meaning the focus is gonna be around him, but no X. So I'm thinking, just a saber, huh? Nah, they give us both the saber and he gets his own buster as well. What I didn't expect was that he didn't have a triple slash in the beginning. We had to grind this. I swear, I feel like the only gripe of the first Zero was how much we had to grind in this game. The energy crystals, the weapons, the cyber elves, all things of which of course can make you stronger in the game, but I'd be fine if we just had to grind the cyber elves. But we still got some really cool weapons to give us variety of playstyles. I fucking love the triple rod. Watch this. I fucking love this. And this is what kind of hooked me. I say kind of because we had to level up to the max on the weapons to be able to do a lot of the crazy things we can do in this game. Somewhat the same in Zero 2, but this time they gave us the feature of forms and EX skills. Forms can be obtained through various means, and EX skills if you beat the bosses at A rank or higher. I like this because now I basically have to lock the fuck in and be skillful at the game. I like getting better and developing skill in games I actively enjoy playing. And with that, I began to learn and understand about the kind of player that I am becoming. I like to be swift and react quick and do combos that can stack damage. And I don't want to say that Zero replaced X for me. No, that's not it. I still enjoy playing as X in the games he's in, but Zero was slowly starting to bring something out of me, something extra. Capabilities I didn't think my brain had potential of. Playing as Zero is one of the reasons my hand-eye coordination improved to what it is now. Mega Man 3 and 4 come out a few years later, and these were the two games that really put the jumper cables in my ass and started the engine. I started being a lot more active and confident in my combat approach. Combos felt a lot smoother, the flow and movement felt a lot cleaner, the story was getting a lot cooler. You could tell that Inti Creates really took in consideration of what worked, what didn't, enhancements needed, and things getting patched. A lot of fine tuning while still keeping the things that make Mega Man, Mega Man. And it didn't stop there. From here on though, the focus was still on Zero and its playstyle with the ZX series. The souls of X and Zero and Axel, we're not gonna act like we don't know, nah, we know ball. He lived on, but they all lived on as biometals that basically have the data and DNA of past known Reploids. This was a very cool idea of humans taking the forms of specific Reploids and having the ability to combine two at a time. Like what? I get to play as not only Zero again, but also Sage Harpuya, Fighting Fafnir, Fairy Leviathan, and Hidden Phantom. If you beat the game as Vent and Ale, you do get to keep Model X, and if you beat Omega Zero in Area N, you get to play as Omega. That's 7 different characters with 7 elements and abilities. It's freaking brilliant. And the things that you can do and pull off in this game make you get creative. ZX Advent let you use the biometals and become the bosses themselves. Classic and X series gave you the boss weapons, but now you can become the boss and use the attacks they have. A whole new approach to the system, and again, creativity is at its peak, especially fighting the bosses. Ultimately though, I've developed the efficiency and talent of using Zero more than I do X, and these games that I mentioned were catalysts in transitioning into what I am competent in as a 2D platform game. Like, I can't tell you how many times I went back to bosses and started learning doing no damage runs, quick kills on bosses, tech exploiting, skips, and glitches. I learned a lot from watching others and kind of mixing it up a bit on my own based on the knowledge. Here are some clips from Lightning Edge that really showcase a fraction of what Zero is capable of. Shout out to Lightning Edge, by the way. We chop it up every now and then, and he's been like a coach to me in getting good. Please check out his page. He's got some really neat Zero videos on, like no joke, like he's super good. Link in the description. Please check him out. I was told many times I should start speedrunning one of these games, but I just don't have the time nor brain capacity to study a whole game like that. At least not right now. But it's been in the back of my mind. Nowadays though, even as a casual run, I just find the enjoyment of being the Zero player that I am today. And you might be wondering, Skymite, you weren't born until 93, and you didn't play these games until they were accessible 2 years later. Like, who do you think you are giving a 50-year-old like me a history lesson? First off, motherfucker, it's called research. I did my research so that I can be appreciative of what we were given from the past that inspired devs to make what we have today. Again, these games are timeless and are relevant to study to get an understanding of how and what you want your game to be like, and utilize whatever resources at your disposal to make one of your own. Hence the games that we have now, like Berserk Boy, Gravity Circuit, Azure Striker Gunvolt series, also made by Inti Creates, Proto Droid Delta, which is a better X7 than X7 by the way, and freaking 20XX and 30XX. Mega Man has been an inspiration to a plethora of people, to the point we're getting some great fan-made games out here like Mega Man Unlimited, Rock and Roll, X8 16-bit, and more to come, like Mega Man X Correct. But nevertheless, if I see Zero or any kind of character that has the ability to slash at something, I'm drawn to select that first before anyone else. I don't know, maybe at some point I went through some kind of identity crisis and eventually came to the acceptance that I, in fact, am a Zero player. Like, I love this character so much, I cosplayed the dude. Look at my OC. I literally had him designed looking more like Zero. Thank you, by the way, Ultimate Maverick X. Check out his work. Your work will never go unacknowledged. His link also in the description. And that's pretty much it. I love everything about Zero and what he was made to be. And, you know, everybody that had a part in making him what he is now, sort of. I'm so fascinated with Zero in many ways though. All the things he can do, the skills he possesses, his personality. He's literally my favorite color, red. And best yet, his Z-Saber. But without the aforementioned games being the foundation and devs putting in the creative work in the past, we probably would not have the highly glorified Red Maverick Hunter that we have today. Anyway, if this video has resonated with you in any way, shape, or form, whether you play as Zero more or X more, or if you like the classics more than the X series, let me know in the comments. I'd like to hear your story as well. Anyway, I'm gonna show some clips of my gameplay as to why I love this character, and that'll be the end, okay? Ready for this? Ready for this? Okay, ready? Okay, here we go, okay.
Grappling arm.